Welcome back to This Week on Supply Chain. So last week you looked at the impacts of geography and thought about some of the advantages and disadvantages of several countries around the world that they had due to their geography and how that geography impacted their self-sufficiency. So hopefully you enjoyed all that. And I enjoyed reading about how you would spend your uncle's money that you inherited on all the businesses that you would create and how you thought you would go about that most effectively. So thanks for sharing. Let's see. This week we're going to talk about supply chain. And I'm going to show you an example as best I can on the screen here. So this is an example of a supply chain for a cereal manufacturer. And a supply chain is the sequence of processes involved in the production and distribution of a commodity. So the sequence of processes involved in the production and distribution of a commodity. In the case of cereal, the commodity is, it could be wheat, corn, rice, millet, all the things that go in granola, all that kind of stuff. And we're looking at the sequence of processes that go into turning that raw ingredient of grain into packaged cereal. And that's why it's called supply chain. Is each one of these are links in the chain that end up to the end customer having the product in their hand, and you wouldn't be able to remove one of these links in the chain and still easily be able to have that customer, the end consumer, having that cereal. So along the top here, you'll notice that we're going through the states of basic materials, from grain that comes from the farmer, that gets processed into cereal, which is then sent to a packaging facility and ends up as packaged cereal, which it stays as packaged cereal until it's disposed of. So that's the state of the material across the top. Then we have who holds the actual material. That goes all the way from the farmer with the raw material to the processing facility, the packaging facilities, the distributors who take massive quantities of what the factories produce and ship out in semis and trains and boats. They ship out everything to warehouses. From there, the retail operations, in this case for cereal, it's grocery stores, they receive from the warehouse, off a truck, usually in the United States, crates of cereal on pallets. They put that cereal on the shelf and then the customer buys it. Okay. From there, I've added on here, it might be hard to read, but you have that there's a step for disposal and recycle and reuse, which is always an important part to consider when you're designing a life cycle of a product. Okay, so that's that's the main two lines across the top. Now, in order to have packaging, they have emphasized, another line of supply that goes into this packaging. The lumber company that would chop down the trees and turn the trees into pulp would send the pulp to a corrugated cardboard manufacturer who would make the paperboard that would be sent to the packaging facility. Now, you don't just want a plain brown package on a fancy cereal box. You want it labeled real well. So you have to work with the label manufacturers who are also going to come up with all the artwork and the right colors to put on the package. Okay, so that's sort of this second line down here. I also added that a lot of times they don't put cereal right into the box. There's also a plastic bag. So there would be a whole line of petroleum products that would end up with that plastic bag. Could be soy or corn plastic, of course, but you have all these extra parts. So I've added all these steps in red here to this sample cereal supply chain that I found. Now you'll notice on here you have second tiers and first tiers. A second tier is anything that provides an input to a first tier. And a first tier is anything that provides an input to what becomes the end product. So that would be the box of cereal. So the processing facility that's making the cereal flakes is contributing the product in its finished form to the packaging facility. The people who are making the paperboard, that's the box, that's first tier because it's going directly in that form to the packaging facility. The label creates an end-use product that goes directly onto the box. And the plastic bag is the finished product that goes directly into the box. So those are all first tiers, okay, that surround this packaging facility. The second tier example is like the farmer that grows the wheat or the corn or the rice that goes into the processing facility, or the people who are growing the trees or processing the trees that get turned into the boxes. So that's first versus second tier. Over here, it's probably hard to see on here, but this says NIMBY, which is an acronym, NIMBY, which means not in my backyard. And it just goes into the disposal of how products are removed from people's homes and put into landfills, and how it goes away from their homes where they no longer deal with it. Okay, so hopefully that explains what a supply chain is. I added this last little bit on here too because sometimes businesses have a lot of customer and producer interactions. If you shop at Kroger's, you might use a Kroger app and see coupons on the Kroger app, and you have an interaction with the store and you consider which products to buy and that kind of thing. You could think about putting that in a supply chain. This could blow out to a 15 or 20 level example, and a lot of these supply chains do get that complicated. But for now, this one's just pretty simple. So that's an example of a supply chain. Your next video is going to explain your assignment for this week.